Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Nebraska Public Health Laboratory statewide partnership. Just bringing up the agenda now. We'll wait a few minutes. Make sure that your speakers are on mute. However, you are welcome to ask questions throughout. Don't hesitate, just remember to take your speaker off mute. And again, do not place your phone on hold. It's very problematic for us, so we appreciate that. We'll give it a few more minutes here. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for hopping on our statewide lab partnership call. I think we might wait one more minute because we have only a few on board. I know it's Monday morning, hard to get going. Thanks to Jeff for being on today, Jeff Hammack. I appreciate this last minute request. And Brianna, if you have anything to share, you are most welcome to plug in if you would like. Anything besides COVID for sure.
I will, yes. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Is Robin on yet? I don't think she is. If Robin does not make it on, Brianna, you don't necessarily have to speak about the coronavirus, but we could put you in that place if you would like to share any of the foodborne or other outbreaks in Nebraska, if you'd like.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll just, I'm planning on just briefly speaking about Cyclospora.
Ooh, interesting. Okay, that would be really awesome too. And Jeff, I might move you up in the agenda too. That way, I know you guys are busy. You can move on to what you need. So, all right, I have 10 after 3. Thank you for those of you who have joined us. Today we have just a small agenda. I think we hit on a lot last week. So I welcome everybody. I have not started. Usually I go ahead and start the chat box, which I will do here. And people have been good about already signing in. So if you could sign into that chat box, we greatly appreciate it. That's my way of doing a sign in to document who's been able to hop on. So today we welcome Brianna Locke. Robin, are you on yet at all? And since I don't hear from Robin, I'm going to ask Brianna, who is one of our DHHS epidemiologists, to kind of fill us in on maybe other topics besides coronavirus. So that's, again, very nice to be able to realize that there's more to life than corona. Go ahead, Brianna.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. So I'm the enteric disease epidemiologist for the state here in Nebraska. And you may have already heard, but over the weekend, there's a cyclospora outbreak happening in the Midwest. It involves 6 states with 76 lab confirmed cases. And it's been going super fast, this whole investigation. And there's been a link to the bag salad, specifically a garden mix that has iceberg, carrots. Oh, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can. If anybody
Okay.
has both their computer and their cell phone speakers on, make sure you mute one of them. That gives you the feedback. So go ahead, Brianna.
Okay, thanks, Karen. So it's iceberg lettuce, carrots, and cabbage. And a lot of our cases have reported purchasing it from Hy-Vee, Aldi, and it's called, we don't have any of those in Nebraska. It's mostly in Illinois. So in Nebraska, we're seeing, we have 8 cases that are associated with this outbreak. We have a couple more that are pending interviews. And I just kind of wanted to hop on and let everybody know that this is ongoing. It's moving very quickly. FDA and CDC are working super hard to nail down the source and get information out there. And they're going to be posting another web posting today. And just wanted to remind labs to please submit your specimens to the Nebraska Public Health Lab so we can get those banked. And I believe we're sending those to CDC for genotyping this summer, so that will be nice to have those results. And I've learned that it's just the genotyping for cyclospora is currently in the validation or the research phase, so that can't necessarily be used for the outbreak investigation because it's not out of that phase yet. But it will certainly help, in the investigation currently, I guess. Let's see, I'm seeing anything else. Does anybody have any questions about this? I know we kind of see something similar every summer, but
could you go over just the food items that included the carrots, cabbage, and you had listed?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so a lot of cases are just reporting a bag salad mix, like a garden salad, and the ingredients in that salad have been iceberg lettuce, carrots, and cabbage.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's
yeah.
All right. And so I thank you for that reminder, Brianna, that our laboratories should be sure to collect or any specimen that is positive for you on your EIA test, that if you could take that transport media or Carrie Blair media, that would be something that we greatly appreciate. It's just a category B specimen, so if you could send it to NPHL as soon as you know that positive is there. Now, for those of you who might send your specimens to outside Nebraska reference laboratories, keep in mind that what you could do is, if you see that report come back positive, please call whoever you send it to. If it's LabCorp, Quest, or AREP, please call them and ask to send that specimen back. I don't even think they send it to their own specimen or their own public health labs. Each state is different. Some of them might collect, some might not. So to assure that we get that information, if you could call that reference laboratory and have them send it either to you or to us, preferably back to us. Or give me a call and I will be happy to try to retrieve it. That would be very helpful. So watch your lab reports at the end of the day. If you see any cyclosporas come through, please be sure to send it. So anything else, Brianna, from the state of interest? Any salmonellas?
There is salmonella multi-state outbreak with backyard poultry. We definitely see that every summer too. Let's see, I believe Nebraska has 12 cases a part of that outbreak currently, but it's always ongoing. So we always see quite a few cases just trickling through the whole summer. Again, reminder to submit salmonella specimens to the public health lab. I know sometimes things get crazy and specimens can get tossed, but we really rely on you guys to send those specimens so we know the serotype or when whole genome sequencing is completed, we know the strain, and that's how it's traced back into multi-state outbreaks. So.
Yes, thank you. And that's correct too. The sooner you can get it to NPHL, the sooner we can do the tracing, and the tracing is not lost as much if it's a week down. Salmonella is a little different. We do ask our sentinel laboratories that if they do get this report, if they could submit the actual organism instead of the Carrie Blair, but I realize most labs don't have microbiology. So with that, if you could send it to your reference laboratory to get it isolated, and they from there will send it to us. I appreciate that. Or if it's a difficulty there even, please contact us. We'll do what we can. So, but if you can culture, that would be really awesome. So thank you, Brianna.
Yep, thank you. I'm actually going to hop off, but if there's any questions, feel free to email me, or Karen, you can relay the questions to me.
Okay, certainly. Let me just real briefly see if there's anything. I think it's just the sign-ins on the chat. So yeah, I do see that you've put something on our chat, and I will add it in email after the fact about the cyclospora outbreak. So thank you.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And then I think I'll do the same. I'm going to add Jeff. You're next in line if you want to take this moment and share the tick-borne HON that did go out. I think I actually can bring it up for you, Jeff.
Okay, yeah, sure.
I believe it's right here. The laboratory should have received it, as I see up here in the beginning of the HON. However, if your laboratory did not receive this, please let me know. We'll investigate, because I want to make sure that all laboratories see these HONs that come from our health department. Jeff, go ahead.
All right, well, thanks, Karen. My name's Jeff Hammock. I'm the vector-borne disease epidemiologist here at the state. And so a couple weeks ago, we sent out a couple of tick-borne related HONs. One was for non-Lyme tick-borne disease, and the other one was for Lyme disease. We figured separating those out just because Lyme disease is kind of a little bit more complicated in terms of diagnosis and testing. So that's why we separated them out. But the main points, we were getting into, tick season, and a lot of the symptoms will mimic COVID and stuff. And we've had a number of COVID negative tests come in that have had positive tick-borne, positive for some other tick-borne disease. So it's good to see at least providers are, having that as a differential, but we thought it was important to get these HONs out. I think some of the high points, we'll just start kind of with the non-Lyme stuff is, we've seen an uptick in what's called the spotted fever group rickettsia, and this includes Rocky Mountain spotted fever. Most of our cases in the state are less pathogenic and are not true Rocky Mountain spotted fever, but they do still cause some minor illnesses, and the commercially available serology labs that are available can't really distinguish between these the species. So they'll be positive. May say Rocky Mountain spotted fever, IgG, whatever, but it may be just reacting with another less pathogenic strain. And I think the other thing that is important with the spotted fever group is we do see some IgM serologies come in and all that, but CDC's recommendation is to use the IgG serology just because IgM is not very specific. And the IgM antibody response hasn't, it's been shown in a lot of studies to be inaccurate in identifying acute illness. And so, it's really insufficient to diagnose spotted fever rickettsia. So we really do like to have, see an acute IgG followed by a convalescent IgG if possible. I know just here today, we actually got what was an acute a couple weeks ago, and then it was followed up here just today with an IgG, and it was positive. So, we actually had a confirmed case of spotted fever rickettsia that came in today. So, it's good to see that at least, people are reading the HON and certainly taking that into consideration. So that's what I would say is probably the big take home with at least the spotted fever rickettsia there is, it is our most frequently reported tick-borne disease. We have had reports of Rocky Mountain spotted fever death. We had one back in 2015, and the diagnosis was initially missed and the treatment was delayed. So, it is important that, providers, especially, with COVID going through with similar symptoms, providers keep this, kind of in mind. And then the other big thing, like I said, is the serology. We really like to see the IgG serology just because IgM can be very finicky, and it may be, it's less specific than the IgG. So we'd like to see that acute and convalescent specimens if all possible, just to confirm that diagnosis. The next thing, I think I want to mention is probably ehrlichiosis. This is spread by the Lone Star tick, and that is definitely becoming more prevalent in Nebraska, and in some areas is the most prevalent tick. We've been doing some tick surveys, just some really small scale stuff here, just piloting a survey program. And right now, that's the most frequent tick we're collecting. Last Monday, we were out at a site in central Nebraska, and we were in a spot for no more than 5 minutes, and we had collected 30 of these Lone Star tick, the nymphal forms. So they're kind of the smaller subadults that are very hard to see, and they can spread disease. Because they've already fed once and may have picked up a potential pathogen, so they can be difficult to see. And so, I think ehrlichiosis is probably underreported and underdiagnosed here. And so that's another reason we wanted to get this message out, just to make sure this is also on providers' radar as well. The early symptoms can mimic spotted fever group, as well as also, again, COVID, which is kind of that general fever, malaise, maybe myalgias and arthralgias. And similar to spotted fever group, if there's a laboratory diagnosis using serology, we would like to, again, to have that IgG if at all possible. Again, similar reasons, the IgM isn't quite as accurate as the IgG. And again, an acute and convalescent specimen is always appreciated to help try to confirm that. But what's a little bit different is you can detect ehrlichiosis early enough if you have early enough, in the illness. You can use PCR. There are PCR assays out there to detect it. And actually, we actually had a PCR positive ehrlichiosis actually come in today too. So it's been a busy tick kind of day here. So those are kind of the things, I think with the, this non-Lyme stuff that I really wanted to point out is, these are kind of things we're seeing. If there's suspicion about Heartland or Bourbon virus, there is no commercial assays available for that. So the thing that has to happen there is this is only available at CDC. Patients that that there's a suspicion for, they have to meet certain criteria that CDC has established for testing. Otherwise, they won't be able to be tested. But, you know, if you have a provider that reaches out and asks about Heartland or Bourbon virus testing, you know, feel free to reach out to the public health lab there or myself, and, you know, we can, you know, try to see if they'll meet the criteria for testing. We've had a couple folks we've tested here in the past, haven't had any positives, so no cases here, but just recently, Iowa had their first confirmed Heartland virus case. These two viruses are vectored by Lone Star tick, which I kind of mentioned is, you know, starting to spread a little bit more in Nebraska, and in some areas is the most prevalent tick collected. So just another kind of tick-borne illness to be on the lookout for. But those were the major things in the non-Lyme HON that, you know, we were kind of, you know, really wanting to push and get information out on. For the Lyme HON, the big thing there was, you know, last year we did detect established populations of the black-legged tick, which is the vector for Lyme disease, in several counties in the eastern part of the state. We also had our first, they weren't confirmed cases, but they were probable cases of Lyme disease that didn't have any travel history outside of Nebraska within the previous 30 days. And they did have the two-tiered testing that was done. And so based on that, you know, there's a good likelihood that these patients were exposed in Nebraska. The only travel was reported in the eastern part of the state, and the other one did live within the eastern part of the state in one of the counties where there was established black-legged tick population. So this is something, you know, we're trying to work on. You know, like I said, we're piloting a tick surveillance program this year just to try to get a bigger program going eventually. This is really dependent upon funding from CDC, which has been kind of lacking, but, you know, we kind of wanted to move forward instead of just waiting, you know, for CDC funding, and try to do as much as we could with, you know, the limited personnel that we have. But the thing here in the HON is, you know, we wanted to emphasize again the two-tier testing algorithm that is essential for providers when they're doing diagnostics. And just trying to really emphasize that they really need to do this initial first test, this first tier where there's kind of the screen test, and then following up with the Western blot. And then the other thing that was, you know, I think important was that CDC had updated the recommendation for serologic diagnosis of Lyme disease. And so what they did is they've come up with a modified standard method to the two-tier system. And it's very similar to the original two-tier system, but that EIA is, the Western blot is replaced with an EIA. The only place, though, I've seen this, though, FDA approved for is for the Zeus scientific platform. I haven't seen it for any other platforms presently, so it's only approved, as far as I know, for the Zeus systems that some labs might be running. But that was another kind of unique thing that the FDA and CDC had kind of come out through late last summer. So we wanted to make sure, you know, providers were aware of that. If their reference lab was using that type of system, that was another possibility of using that system. And then also just the kind of, there's a lot of these Lyme disease only labs that are out there that certain providers kind of, you know, start using for testing, and we don't, you know, they offer a lot of types of tests out there that they say can, you know, detect all, you know, Lyme disease and then some other tick-borne illnesses, but these are not FDA approved, and CDC actually recommends not using them just because we really don't know the accuracy and clinical usefulness. They haven't really been established, and so they're basically unvalidated. So those were pretty much the main things there then with Lyme disease that we really wanted to get out to providers, is, you know, to make sure following the two-tier testing algorithm, whether it be the, you know, original two-tier algorithm or whether it's that modified one, you know, we just want to make sure providers and everyone was aware that that's the big recommendation, that, you know, for diagnosing, you know, using the serology and stuff, that these really need to be followed to the T to help with accurate diagnosis, as well as help with following up of cases on the public health side. And I think those were the main things I wanted to mention, Karen. So I think that's all I had.
Great. You know, I just want to put a plug in too for our tularemia. We haven't seen anything yet, really, have we, Jeff, in this state?
If I remember right, I think we had one probable case, but it seemed to be more, wasn't necessarily related to tick-borne. I think it was more of kicking up of aerosols from some dust and dirt, if I remember correctly.
Okay, so maybe are we past the tularemia state? Usually we see that early spring, but we could have it throughout the summer too.
Yeah, as long as those, it's usually vectored by, it can be vectored by the American dog tick, which is one of our common ticks, as well as the Lone Star tick. So as long as those ticks are out and about, there is that possibility of some possible tick-borne transmission that way.
Right, and that could even include your own pet dog as well, couldn't it? To carry those ticks, unfortunately. So I'm going to put a plug in for the fact that I want our microbiology labs to actually really beef up on their LRN guidelines, and hopefully you can do that several ways. I believe I sent out here a week ago virtual exercises that are available to the laboratory. You can do that in a half hour that you might have a break or something like that. Or we do have coming up our LPX and challenge sets for all the laboratories in Nebraska. I'm also going to announce that we're going to offer some virtual BT training per se. It will be something that I'll do lunch and learns on. Usually takes 3 lunch and learns instead of having people come into the laboratory this year or me going out to the laboratories. I think that's the way we're going to handle it during this COVID season. So we will talk about that more. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much, Jeff. I appreciate your time in that. And again, sorry for the late invite. So,
no problem. No problem.
All right. I am going to go back to my, can everybody see the, oh, here we go. There we go. The agenda again. As we go back to the agenda, I wanted to then move on. Robin, you're not on, are you still? Okay. Dr. Buss, I see that you are on, Brian. Would you mind stepping in for Robin and saying a few words about what is happening in the state? I don't know if you can share anything about long-term care.
Hi, Karen. I apologize. I was out of the office last week, and I'm still catching up, so I'm not really prepared to give much of an update. I apologize.
All right, that's all right. What I do know of it is that the state is still working on the long-term care plan. They are moving from testing here at NPHL and trying to do more surveillance with the Test Nebraska group. We did have last week, every day at 4 o'clock was an informational session for long-term care and local health departments. And I know that they had a lot to work out. So I'm anxious to hear, Brian, if I don't know, I'm sure you haven't heard, but that hopefully will be coming out fairly soon. So sorry about that, Brian, didn't mean to put you on the spot. So I also just wanted to point out that there is one other HON that did come out several weeks ago. It was more the serology part, came out June 19th. It also went out to laboratories. Let me know if you did not get this one. Talking about the COVID testing, I think the main point of this particular HAN was that serologic testing really has not yet demonstrated usefulness in making clinical decisions for most individuals. I mean, it's nice to know if you've converted, but it should not be used for clinical diagnosis. So you can read through the details here. This is on the DHHS website. It's really not hard to get to. In fact, if you go to the Nebraska DHHS website, go to Health and Wellness, and there on the right side, when you bring up all the diseases, you'll see the Health Alert Network alerts. So that's where you'll find the alerts that I pulled up today. Are there any questions? Let me look on chat. I know Bill says, is that a hint? Was that from the last, the LRN comments I made, or is this serology? Oh, Francisella, yeah. Yeah, it could be, you never know. But I do know that this is the season for Francisella, and so I just wanted to make sure everybody was prepared. So good try, Bill. With that, I really think we could make this a short meeting. Maybe one other topic I would like to see, although I haven't really checked with them, but Tony, are you on, that you have any comments regarding Abbott or anything else about client services work?
I am on, and I don't really have anything right now. We've kind of gotten a good rhythm going for ordering, and I'll be asking everyone to provide me with statistics on their comparisons here at the end of the month, so we can have an update on that.
All right, perfectly. Is there any questions about the Abbott? And do we have anybody on from client services? I didn't know if Jessica or Teresa were on. I do not see them, so my guess is that everything's going well for the input of specimens into NewAlert. I hope everybody's getting used to it. We are still posting the instructions for NewAlert on our NPHL site. If there's any problems with the reporting part, certainly look me up, or I know that there are emails or phone numbers available on the instructions of who you can contact if you're not getting your report like you thought you might, or if it's not going to the appropriate people like your provider. I wonder if, Pete, if you're on, do you have any last minute comments on how things are going here at NPHL?
Well, Karen, I'm on, just more and less listening here, but I do want to state that the public health lab has been overwhelmed and continues to be overwhelmed with specimens. And we need to get a handle on some of this. The public health lab should be doing outbreak investigating specimens only, but we are getting lots of specimens that are not part of the outbreaks. A lot of nursing homes for surveillance that should not be coming to public health. We would love to do all the testing everybody wants to do, but our capacity is only at a certain level. And the staffing is getting overwhelmed, and I don't want them to walk off the job here. So I'm trying to keep them happy as best I can. So we're trying to work with our partner at Nebraska Medicine to pick up some of the slack as well, which they have done. But we need others to help out as well, and we can't be doing stat testing that people want done as well. So little bit of sour grapes here, but like I say, today we probably have 800 samples sitting in front of us from the weekend, which is something that is basically 2 days of work just to catch up. So that's where we're at, Karen, just to let people know that we're hitting the limit here where we can no longer turn around these samples within 48 hours.
And I think that some of our laboratorians have noticed that issue. I know that in the past, we've been really spoiled and have been able to get it back within 24 hours, and that's no longer true. So as a reminder to everyone, there are other options across Nebraska. I mean, a number of laboratories that will test and provide that testing on a commercial basis. Again, Nebraska Medicine, but also CHI, I think, is open. I know that they're doing, obviously, the Test Nebraska, but the core laboratory here in Omaha may consider taking occasional specimens if needed. I think we have other sites that are coming up. I know P-Lab was considering. Is Methodist an option? Is anyone aware if Methodist is an option? I don't know, Pete, if you know if they are.
No, I'm not aware.
Aaron, they send their testing to Nebraska Medicine, except for their rapids. They have, I think, Cepheid possibly going for rapids.
Okay,
I think they do, because we help them validate or verify their tests.
Sure.
I do want to also make a statement that the GI season, the West Nile season now has picked up. We have a cyclospora outbreak going on that the public health lab is involved with. We have a cryptosporidium outbreak. We have multiple salmonella outbreaks, and we are now also testing mosquitoes. So all of this on top of what we've been doing for COVID is what's really overwhelming the laboratory at this point.
Right. And I don't know if you were able to hop on right away, Pete. We did have a good message from Jeff Hammock, who did share a lot about the HAN that came out. So hopefully we've covered that. I wasn't aware of we were aware of the cyclospora from Brianna Locke. She also shared that, but you say we also have cryptosporidium, huh? So
cryptosporidium is picking up, yes.
Yeah, a reminder for everyone, those are reportable diseases, and to please send those to NPHL. And Jody, thank you for that information about Methodist. So again, please look in, especially if you have any connection with your local health departments. Stay tuned from the information that will be coming from the state as they move to Test Nebraska. Please encourage your local health departments, local long-term cares, to look into that before they send to NPHL. So, does anybody have any last questions? This would be the open mic session, and if anybody has any other comments, I really welcome anything you'd like to share. Just open your mic. How about any questions? Hearing none, then once again, don't forget to sign in to the chat box. Again, future trainings. I am looking in doing those lunch and learns online. I think I will put out an invitation that we will start those June 30th. That's Tuesdays. I'm hoping that's kind of the easiest day of the laboratory without hitting a lot of people on comp time because of their weekends. With that, it will follow through from June 30th, July 7th, and July 14th. And I think with that, then the challenge set will go out right after that, and that will be the wet lab side of our training. I encourage the laboratories that if you do any micro, even gram stains, and that's it, if you don't do cultures but gram stains, this is worthwhile to sit in on. If you have new employees, I highly recommend they get a good feel for this type of training too. So please encourage them to join us. There will be continuing education offered with this, probably at least 3 hours, and I might see if we can get PACE credit for that as well. With that, if anybody wants packaging and shipping and a little, have not ever done that type of training, just call me. We can do kind of on the spot training. It would take an hour time, but we can schedule that at any time. LPX, I believe, is due to come out here first part of July, and then the challenge set after July 14th. And so that's all I've got to say for trainings for this summer. I do know that we will continue to hold next week our statewide meetings or conference calls here. And then as of July, we'll take a break and start in on June 13th. We'll consider maybe every other week or maybe just every month for a while. So we'll see how things go for the summer. And everybody probably needs a break from the Zoom calls. I totally understand that. Any last questions? If not, I thank you for joining us and look forward to talking to you next week. Have a great week, everyone. Bye now.